chair, Joe Willis, is attempting to get on the call. So I'm going to go ahead and say that we're live right now. We appreciate your time. And I think since we didn't have a meeting last week, we've had a lot of changes, a lot of additional information to pass on today. We've got a full group here. So let me go to our agenda today. Scott Flippo is also not on, but I think Ron McNair, you are? Well, he was going to be. So we're going to come back. Joe said he's had a vehicle breakdown on the side of the road. He apologizes. So we're going to proceed without him. And if Ron or Scott join, we'll pick up. Let's go ahead and let's start with our first update. I have no general updates today. The governor hasn't made any major announcements that we're aware of, except, of course, that everybody knows we're in phase 2. And that's a big deal for the small business. So let's go ahead. This is what happened last week with the 3 executive orders that were signed. It negated having a special legislative session. There are several people on this call who also worked hard to get our representatives on board the House bill or the House letter that went to the governor. So we appreciate that very much. All right, Vince and Sammy, you're on.
Well, thank you, Bob. I wish we had some great news for you here. Sammy's going to go through some numbers. And I will tell you that the numbers of cases in the Northwest region are still going through the roof. We're starting to see asymptomatic patients testing positive, which is a little frightening. We know that Washington County, Benton County, Madison County, Carroll County have seen exponential increases in positive cases. We have not yet had the impact on our community to get people to do the appropriate social distancing and wearing masks when appropriate. I think that we're going to continue to send the message that we've got to get the folks that we are cohabitating with here in our community to participate in wearing masks when appropriate and to wash hands appropriately, to social distance when appropriate. And I know that we're in phase 2 and we're starting to talk about opening up businesses and we're starting to talk about going back to school. The numbers that we are seeing are not telling us a good story. So I'll let Sammy go through those numbers. And if you think I'm trying to scare you, you're right. I am. So I'll turn this over to Sammy and let her run through the numbers and I'll try to finish up.
Thanks, Vince.
Good afternoon. I was going to pull up the governor's press release today. He said there's 697 new cases in the state. Looks like Washington County only had 79 new cases today instead of 140 yesterday. But if you look at the numbers continuing to grow there in Washington County, they're up to a total positive of 2,680. And I think you're just going to see that continue to rise over the next couple of weeks with the predicted models. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. You can see that Benton County is also up to 2,128 cases. And a little bit later, we'll share some of the information that's coming out of those hospital systems that I think highlights the concern for where these case numbers are going. Next slide, please. Boone County, we're up to a total positive of 14. We've got active cases of 6. We do show 1 death in the county, and we're showing 7 that are recovered. I believe that you're going to see those continue to rise. Please remember that the way those deaths are reported, it's reported as the county of residence for that patient. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the county where the COVID-19 was acquired or where the patient was treated or expired. I know there have been lots of questions about that. If anybody else wants to ask questions, I'm sure that 911 can help with that, or we can get information from the coroner, but I know there've been a lot of questions on that. Next slide, please. The current hospitalizations are up to 248. Collectively, it looks like we had 58 patients on a ventilator as of this morning. That's a net increase of 19 cumulative new admits across the state. So we're continuing to see a rise there. Next slide, please. I had an opportunity yesterday to meet with the governor and some of his staff, Dr. Smith, and then Dr. Romano, who's going to be taking over when Dr. Smith goes to the CDC. And one of the things that they talked about was the concerns with testing. And the Arkansas Hospital Association actually, on their call on Monday, stated that the Abbott test is under rapid fire, which, as this article indicates, they are trying to say that only a positive result is helpful. And I think that's important, as Vince said, talking about trying to scare everyone. We just need to understand how the testing works. We're still dealing with these false negatives. This particular test is running a 50 to 60% accuracy rate. And so while we get a positive result, that gives us a good indicator of the clinical presentation. But if the patient still presents as if they're ill, then we're treating them as if they have COVID. So even if they receive a negative test, that's not indicative that they don't need to be quarantined and precautions don't need to be taken. And so I think that as the state works to secure antibody testing, and they're also working with lab providers on antigen testing. And so I think we'll see some of that roll out through the state, but the state continues to contend that we need to be maintaining with the social distancing, the social isolation, and we need to understand the ramifications for the testing. There were several facilities yesterday that mentioned they're having difficulty with testing as far as getting reagents to run the test. And then from a hospital perspective and an acute care perspective, we also address the concern that it's much easier if we can test and give an immediate result. And the turnaround time on these tests is a problem. Currently, we're seeing turnaround times anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. We do have some of these rapid screens in the hospital, and we're able to use that on our critical patients. So that is helpful. And we'll continue to do that. All of our outpatient labs go to Lenexa, Kansas. And so to get a 24 or 48 hour turnaround on those is really good. We have had some issues where the vendor lost all 3 of their analyzers, and then we're just kind of in a holding pattern. We talked to them on Monday, and they said they had 26,000 pending COVID-19 tests. So that's pretty significant. And as you're seeing a rise through the Midwest, I suspect that we're going to see delays with getting those results back. But fortunately, we're not having those problems yet. I had the opportunity to hear from the Baxter regional CEO, and he said that they're having difficulty in getting tests back. They're 3 to 4 days on turnaround. So we're good at where we're at. We're still doing the testing out at the Bear State Bank building, the Medical Plaza, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 3. Those testing restrictions have really been lifted. Anybody who's symptomatic, we're running a test on. Anybody that has had any known exposure to COVID-19. So if there are questions about that, encourage people to go through the drive-through or call the hotline. We're still here. We want to answer those questions, and we're seeing an increase in those testing numbers as we're seeing an increase in cases. Next slide, please. So as we started talking about availability in hospital beds, if any of you have seen the UAMS predicted model, they're saying that we need an additional 500 ventilators within the state, and they're expecting a peak the end of August, first part of September. And so one of the things that we do every day is we report into a database, and we look at our region as well as the beds across the state. And you can see, if you look at the red line, we are the Northwest region. You can see that we're continuing to grow and increase in the number of hospital admits by region. And then comparatively, you can see the metro area, which would be the Little Rock, kind of central Arkansas region. And so we met today with our track on what we're doing for bed availability. We talked about ventilator allocation, how we would share those within the region, and what resources are available. Northwest CEOs have had some contingency surge plans. We are also doing that internally as far as having additional bed availability, and then areas where we can house these patients that need to be in negative pressure so that we don't contaminate any other area. And I think it's really important to think about, we need to keep people safe. And the number one thing that we can do is we can wear masks when we can't socially distance. We need to be using hand hygiene and social isolation when we can. And I think that we need to continue to stress that, because the most important thing we can do from an economic perspective is keep everybody safe and healthy to keep things open. If this continues on the trajectory of just increasing cases, then we're going to see our workforce become ill. And at that point, then the question becomes, who takes care of these people? So we're doing everything we can here, from visitor restrictions, encouraging people to wear masks, and doing what we can remotely to try to minimize that contact and decrease the viral spread. Next slide, please. This is an article that was put out by the CDC, and you can see the date on it. Was just released. And so basically, if you pull up the article, what it says is that their findings in this limited study said that the minimization of contact and the effectiveness of social distancing is still supported through the data of flattening the curve. And it doesn't necessarily eliminate or eradicate the viral illness, but what it does is it gives the relief to the healthcare system so that these patients can get the care that they need. So I thought that was useful. If you have some people that you feel like would benefit from reading this, it's a good article. It's not necessarily just clinically written. Lay people can understand it. It is helpful to understand why we're taking the steps that we are and why it's so important that we continue to maintain these standards. Next slide, please. This is the notification that was sent out on June 19th on the guidance from the Arkansas Department of Health on use on face coverings in the general public. I did also ask Debbie to send that to Bob in a PDF form so that if you guys want to distribute that. I know that we are seeing a lot of people out in the public setting that aren't using face coverings, and so I think it's important for us to try to educate on why we're trying to do that and keeping everyone safe and minimizing that spread of illness.
And we'll get that out on social media, Sammy. Thank you.
Perfect. And I think just getting those publications out. The other thing that I did yesterday was I asked for these documents in Spanish as well. And so Dr. Romero was going to work on getting that to me. I think that's something for our area that we need to focus on, and that is getting information out to the public in their native language, as well as at the health literacy rate that they're able to understand. Because if we're not sharing the information in a way that they can comprehend it and repeat it, then we're probably not being effective. So we're working to do that also through our education avenues, and we're sending some information out through our electronic health record, just trying to educate the public about what's going on and what the prevalence is and what the importance is. Perfect. That concludes my report. If you guys have any questions, I know it's a lot of information. What I would just like to say is keep on the fight, continue to be diligent, and encourage your staff and the people around you to maintain the social distancing, the social isolation, and working through some of that. I know that it's easy to become complacent. I understand that we are all frustrated, and life is just different right now, but we need to continue to maintain these things to keep everyone safe.
And this is Vince again. Just a couple of statistics for you. At the present time this morning, there are 333 patients hospitalized in our state. And as of June 16, I've got a report from Becker's, which is a industry document that's spin out every day from as to all the hospitals. And at that point in time, we were listed as number 4 on the top 10 list of states with the fastest increasing numbers of COVID cases. So I know we don't have the big numbers that they have in Arizona or Texas, but I can tell you that we still have an opportunity to slow this down. And please encourage your folks that come into your business to wear their masks. As you can recall, some of the protections for the legal protections for immunity for businesses required the businesses to participate in the protective measures pushed out by the state. So we still have time to change this direction, but we have to influence everybody around us to protect themselves and protect us. So we'll take questions if you wish.
Thanks, Vince and Sammy. If you have questions, now's a good time to go ahead and ask. Pretty hard-hitting information. Anyone? Okay, we thank you, and you still have time you can do this on chat if you'd like. All right, from the Boston Mountain Health.
Bob?
Yes.
You forgot Dr. Keener.
Oh, no, Josh, are you on? Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, I'm here just kind of in between treating patients, but not a lot new in the dental field. You know, we're kind of doing a little more work and everything, but still, you know, practicing our PPE and doing a lot of patient screening, both phone call screening and then when they come in the building, and everybody's wearing face masks, which is good. But any questions y'all have for me, I'd be glad to answer.
Josh, one question that we had here at the chamber yesterday: are all dentists requiring the wearing of a face mask to come in?
My understanding is they are, you know, wanting something, you know, a face covering. It can be a cloth covering, but, you know, we're trying to do that as much as we can if you come in our doors until we get you back to the operatory room, you know, where you're by yourself.
Yeah, okay, good, thanks.
Yes.
Questions for Josh? All right, thanks, Josh. I apologize.
Thank you.
All right, from the Boston Mountain Rural Health Clinic, continued good news as of last Thursday. No positives from the several hundred tests that they have administered with the Arkansas Department of Health. That's good news. There's not a real explanation, I don't think, on why this is not getting a larger, why we're not seeing more people take advantage of this. But the good news is that those that are not testing positive. Joan Bell.
Hey there, Bob. I'm on my phone today, so it's a little bit harder to hear and see, but I wanted to just give a quick report with the new phase that we've entered into really for small businesses. I don't really see, or I'm not hearing from anyone that really has changed their practices a whole lot as far as the restaurants, maintaining that 6 feet distance. Most restaurants, whether it be 33% capacity or 60% capacity, really it's, you know, the overriding factor is the distance between patrons. So there's not a lot of difference in the restaurants. But I think everyone feels very comfortable with the way everything is working. It's become the new normal on how to seat everyone and things of that nature. I've talked to a few salons. They were happy with the new capacity, mainly the larger ones. When I'm talking about larger, I'm thinking the size of Trends and those types, because that allowed more of their stylists to become, you know, back in there. Obviously, they're still maintaining the 6 feet of space, but they could do that and still bring in more stylists back to work. So they were very happy. As far as your small businesses just up and down Main Street and around the corner and that type of thing, I think all of us are just still doing the same thing that we were before. You know, keeping out hand sanitizer, those types of things, encouraging folks to just do things by phone if they possibly can, ordering online for the boutiques, that stayed pretty consistent and a little bit higher. So I think everyone is trying to adjust to that. I've not heard anything from folks not able to find. I know you can go to Walmart now. I picked up some more hand sanitizer for my business the other day at Walmart. So I think that, you know, the supply chain there has kind of caught up a little bit and everyone's able to find the correct protective gear. I think now it's more of a concern of the public of just continuing doing those things, because I think that there is a little bit more of a a lull in this has just gone on so long. I think people are getting a little more anxious about and trying to branch out a little bit. But I will say that I did go to Walmart last night, and I thought that there were more people at the time that I was there anyway wearing their masks than there were in other times that I've gone. I've not gone a ton, but so, I mean, it's probably just when I go and that type of thing. Maybe others have had different experiences, but I thought the masks were more utilized last night than I'd noticed them in a while. So if there's anyone else on from my subcommittee, please feel free to share any experiences. That's just what I'm hearing when I reach out.
Joan, thank you very much. You mentioned the hand sanitizer. We've had a couple of questions here about where individual masks can be purchased, the PPP. I know that, Danny, do you have any updates on that, on where people can get either one or two or a small handful of masks for purchase, probably privately? Anyone? Smallest number I can find is a package of 20. If anybody has got additional information on where you can buy individual masks or in very small quantity, please reach out. You can put it on the chat box here, or you can let us know here at the chamber. Thank you very much.
Hey, Bob, this is Joan, and I will just mention if you're just needing one or two or some for your 2 or 3, 4, 5 office staff that they could reuse, I've had really good luck just going on Facebook, and you can go into several of the sites, the yard sale sites, and just scroll and, just say what you're looking for. There's a lot of people, especially those that are out of work, just local folks that are making those masks and would sell you one or two or, in some cute little colors and that type of thing. So that might be another way to just support someone local and then just get those that are reusable for your staff.
That's a great idea, Joan. Thank you very much.
Just say Bill mentioned mask in the text in the chat box.
Jimmy Lewitt, are you on?
Can you hear me, Bob?
Jimmy, yes. Do you have any updates for us for the prime businesses?
No real update. I know that our local facility has seen a lot more activity around COVID, more folks being quarantined.
Jimmy, I apologize. I apologize, but you're coming in very, very.
I had problems getting on, and no new updates, Bob.
Okay, thanks very much, Jimmy. I appreciate that. Let me ask you, there are a couple of you on, I think Joe Olson I saw on as well. Are you all getting any corporate input about the situation in Arkansas?
New directions.
Yeah, new direction.
No, we're not getting any new direction. Well, we're certainly staying updated, but there's no new protocol that we're implementing at this time, Bob.
Good. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that.
Bob, can you hear me any better now?
Yes, very good.
Okay. We've actually, due to the number of cases in the area, we have stepped up our protocol to requiring face coverings all the time now. We've seen a lot more activity around COVID, more folks being quarantined because they've been exposed to someone outside the 4 walls here. So the protocol has been stepped up. You have to have a face covering on when you enter the facility, and keep it with you and on you. And if you're anywhere within 6 feet of someone, you have to have it on all the time.
Okay, appreciate that. I think we may see more of that from large businesses. We appreciate that update from both you and Joe. From our education team, Dr. Pratt.
Yes, sir. I got some good news. And so to start off with, let's talk about this past year just a second before we start about the coming year. DESE, Arkansas Division of Elementary and Secondary Education, has approved our graduation plans for Friday, July 10th at 8 p.m. So it'll be limited seating, folks. So, we normally will have 4,000 people there, and I don't think we can do that. But we will have a graduation, and hopefully families can come and support their kids and their seniors. And we're going to have it outside at FS Garrison Stadium again on Friday the 10th at 8 p.m. And we've been approved by the state. So that's really good news for us. So could I go to the next slide, please? So let's talk about the next year. So we've been working hard. Our team of people have been working hard on what will school look like for Harrison next year. We've asked for a lot of feedback. Our ears have been open. We do take a lot of input from staff and from parents, but also from our industry leaders and our business partners around town. And one of the things we've heard is we really need you to have on-site instruction. So we've devised a pretty aggressive plan to make sure that we have students on site. Number one, it's academically sound. And number two, it's good for our local community and our parents. So we've got it set up for on-site instruction. However, there are some parents that are nervous and have maybe a medically fragile child or have some concerns about the COVID-19. So we're ready to go off-site. In other words, we will educate your child away from our campus, or we'll educate your child on our campus, either way, off-site or on-site. And that'll be done by Harrison staff, using Harrison curriculum, using Harrison assessments, and we've followed up by Harrison teachers. So we're really proud of that. Our teachers and our staff has been working hard to get ready for that. Next slide, please. Also, one of the formatting changes that we've done is so we can get the social distancing, going back to Sammy and Vince. This is really important to get the safety aspect in line. We've got to spread kids out a little bit. We've got to get them away. So we can't fill up classrooms to their maximum capacity as normal. So we've spread things out. So what we've done is we've changed our format, and we're moving away from the neighborhood schools at the kindergarten level. So we've taken kindergarten from Eagle, Forest, and Skyline, and they'll all be in one site, and that'll be at the Eagle Heights campus. And then Forest Heights and Skyline's Heights will be both grades 1 through 4. Why? There's two reasons. One, again, it's academically sound. We'll have a dream team of teachers at kindergarten to get kids off to the right start. And then number two is allows us to spread out in space. And here in a minute, I'll show you a worst case scenario slide that shows us that we can meet all those spacing requirements and still have kids on site every day. When it comes to preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, that's where we learn to read. That's really difficult to do in an electronic medium. And those students really need to be on campus for reading fundamentals and mathematical foundations. So we're going to have school every day. Okay, if you go to the next slide, please. Grades 1 through 4 again will be at Skyline, and grades 1 through 4 will be at Forest Heights in those sectors. There is no consideration, little rumor mill going around town. There's no consideration of ever having a 1-2 building and a 3-4 building. We're not planning on doing that at all. I don't know where that came from, but I'll put that to rest right now. Next slide, please. Grades 5 through 8 will remain the same, and 9 through 12 will remain the same. We believe that, again, using some precautionary measures as produced by CDC and Arkansas Department of Health and produced through our education agencies, we'll do our very best. The pieces that we have to work on is large groupings that are entering school, like exiting the buses and car rider pickup lines, cafeteria planning. How do we feed students? We're working on those procedures right now to get ready to make them as safe as possible. And those large groupings, those are the pieces that we have left to fix and find solutions. I'm very optimistic. I think we will find good solutions and be ready to go. So before I end my presentation, let's look at worst case scenario. Next slide. There you go. Thank you. So worst case scenario, really high levels of COVID, but yet we've not been told we can't even get out. And at home and shelter level. So above home and shelter level, but yet still pretty severe hotspot. So we can have preschool every day. We can have kindergarten every day. We can have grades 1 through 3 at Forest and grades 1 through 3 at Skyline. Again, additional spacing there. We'd move 4 through 6 at Harrison Middle School. Again, additional spacing there. And grades 7 through 9 could meet every day at the high school. Again, additional spacing there. And before, I'll just take the bullets out of your gun. You're going to ask, what about 10 through 12? Well, we're hoping that the hotspot wouldn't stay forever and that we could get the 10 through 12th graders back on campus. But we believe they could survive an online or digital type medium a little bit better than those younger students. And we think parents could be, would feel more comfortable. That's the feedback we received. If anybody's got to stay at home, they're a little bit more comfortable with 11th grader or 12th grader being at home than they are with an 8-year-old. So we hopefully it's a short-term hotspot and we can get everybody back in the right configurations. So Bob, that's my report. We're excited. There'll be more to come on our plan. I'd like to drive everybody to our website. And if you'll scroll down from the sliding pictures, you'll see a lot of information there. We're sending out social media blasts. We're sending out Remind. We've got it on our website. So more information will be coming right after the 1st of July, right around graduation time. So what questions might anyone have?
Stuart, that's great. Thanks. This is your time to ask him questions.
Hey, Dr. Pratt, Josh Keener.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to mention, my understanding is the GOB TV crews maybe going to live stream your graduation or whatever. If there's some higher risk individuals or just trying to keep numbers down, you can watch it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Keener. You're right. We're making plans. Again, Mrs. Crow and GOB TV kids do a great job. Like our football and some of our broadcasting, we've got a broadcast trailer. We're going to try to help out grandmas and grandpas that might be at risk, and they can watch their family members graduate. So great point. Thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Pratt? I know details are going to be of most value, so we look forward to your next report.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much. All right, Dr. Esters.
Well, we don't have quite as much information. Stuart, I'm always impressed with your ability to organize things. Harrison is lucky to have you. We continue to issue the Pioneer Strong grants. And I'm still amazed at how hard it is to give money away. We've finished the spring, sent several notifications. We've given away about half of it. And we are starting into the summer grants. So those will be processed fairly quickly. Our laptops and our Zoom technologies, the boxes are arriving every day. We're going to add 12 Zoom classes. Again, that'll change North Ark's business model tremendously. One of the other things that we'll be announcing later on is a lot of our classes, not all of them, but a lot of our classes will end the week of Thanksgiving instead of straddling the Thanksgiving holiday. And that's also part of the Zoom shift that we're making. It was recently announced that $28 million has been designated to higher ed. The majority of that is going to be for testing, and we don't know what that looks like yet. We don't know if it's going to be an on-site clinic, so that they've yet to give us the details on that. 140,000 of that, though, has come for us to buy PPE and other things that we need to survive this pandemic. We are writing our plan or wrapping it up. Actually, we're in the edit phase, and that by the end of next week or the week after, you should see North Ark's reopening plan come out. But some of the high points that will include, I've already mentioned, the possibly ending some of the semester early. Face coverings we think will be required. We're going to arrange our classes we walk through today, make sure that everyone can seat 6 feet apart. Each class will have a remote delivery option, either traditional online classing or Zoom simultaneously. In my generation, we call it simulcast. We'll have signage in the halls to promote distancing. It seems a little silly to put arrows on the floor, but if it helps, we'll do it. And then we'll have contingency plans in place to return to remote delivery if we have to, just like Dr. Pratt was talking about. Worst case scenario, if it all falls apart, we shift it to online in 72 hours, 48 hours in the spring. We can shift to online in 2 hours in the fall. So that's what's happening over at North Art.
All right, thanks very much, Randy. Questions for Dr. Esters? Let me go back to a slide that we got from the OUR Cooperative on a couple of other graduations. Both Jasper and Alpena are now scheduled for July the 17th. All the schools across the state are scheduled to open on August the 13th. Sports, and Stuart, you may have an update here locally, but summer practicing. However, there are no out-of-state trips allowed. And this morning there was a note from the Secretary of Education that travel trips are likely going to be affected by data on a weekly basis. Do you have any update there?
Yes, that you're accurate. AAA, Arkansas Activities Associations, working with DESE, and you're correct. If there's hot spots in regions, back to earlier report from our medical community, in Northwest or Central Arkansas, we probably will have to reschedule or rearrange that. It probably won't fly, so we won't drive down there on a bus and participate that. So, but we have produced our athletic schedules. You'll see those on Twitter and our websites, our athletic website. So those are out, but all the school sports are going, and schools are exhibiting practices, and the kids are great. They're super excited about being back.
Good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that very much. All right. Let's jump to the nonprofit group. Bill Knipe, you've got a report here.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. First thing was wanted to talk a little bit about the churches. Reports coming back is that most churches are having services. They're still practicing the social distancing, being careful, asking people to wear masks at least when they come in and sit down. Just be aware of your surroundings. Some of the children's programs, they're being limited for obvious reasons, and the same is actually true for adult programs as well. Just trying to be safe. Of course, the whole vacation Bible schools are kind of up in the air, and several of them are on hold. But one thought was to actually try to do them online, and that's always an option. One thing we thought was interesting was that the actual contributions to the churches are actually better than what was expected. I think most were expected a huge downturn, but in fact, it's actually holding pretty well. So that was actually good news on that side. David, I see you're on. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I had to step away there for a phone call, but no, I think you covered it for what I stepped in on. Okay,
thank you. On the nonprofit side, I just wanted to bring up here in the last couple of days, there's what's called an Emergency Solutions Grant, and that's actually a yearly grant that comes down from HUD, and it's actually administered by the Office of Community Services. Well, when this whole thing came up, they were trying to come up with an ESG COVID program. Well, that's actually starting to gel. There's going to be some workshops come up here at the early part of June. I'll receive that. Actually, today came out where you can actually apply for the grant. The Emergency Solution Grant covers various areas such as homelessness prevention and shelter operations, things like that. But it looks to me like this is specific to rapid rehousing. And what rapid rehousing is, as I see it, is it's a kind of a stepping point between I'm trying to get on housing, but I don't have it yet, but I'm homeless. So what do? And the purpose of rapid rehousing is to try to fill in that space. And so they're getting that geared up. I've already met with Shonda. We actually spoke today. We're going to be talking again tomorrow about how House of Hope and housing, and we'll be probably reaching out to Northwest Regional Housing Authority and others to, how can we effectively use that grant up in our area. Of course, one of the biggest problems is that getting the grant is all, well and good, but if the properties aren't available, then you can have all the vouchers in the world, but if you can't find a place to put them in, then that really becomes a problem. So, and that's one thing on the rapid rehousing segment of that grant, is that putting somebody in a motel isn't part of the rapid rehousing program. And so that in itself is not viable unless, when we go to these workshops, we find out that they're going to make an exception and actually allow that. At this point, we don't know, but we'll know here. The first workshop is July 2nd. The second workshop, I believe, is July 7th. And we'll learn more from there. I think I saw Shonda was on the phone. Shonda, if you're on, do you have anything else to add with that?
No, I don't have anything additional. I think you covered it pretty well. Hopefully, after we have our meetings in 2 weeks or next week, we'll know more at the next meeting that we have with this group.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And really, that's all I have right now. If anybody have any questions. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
We appreciate that, Bill. Let's move over to tourism. Matt Bell.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was a little bit late. So we did have a meeting today, Bob. You were a part of that, but a few highlights from it. Obviously, with the Kansas governor issuing a hot spot on the state of Arkansas, we're seeing losses. And after the meeting this morning, I had sent out to my other counterparts in other cities around the state, and the losses are racking up pretty heavily from Kansas cancellations. Bentonville had a group of 4 different sports teams all cancel every room and everything because they couldn't come participate in a soccer tournament that they were having over there. So, and that's echoed around the state. So that Kansas basically shutting down Arkansas for business is going to have a pretty good impact on us, being that it is one of our major states for tourism, being so close. Another, highlight, and this is kind of a repeat, but food costs continue to be an issue for restaurants if they can get some of their foods. Beef, I think the beef industry right now is probably the hardest impacted as far as rising costs and then also shortages. So, those are issues. I did get March numbers and May numbers in, or I'm sorry, March and April numbers in. We're starting to see some of our May collections, of course, come in. And I'll just tell you that the forecasted losses for our industry within the city of Harrison aren't quite as bad as we had originally anticipated about a month ago. But we do predict just shy of $2 million in lost hotel revenue for the city of Harrison and $8 million in lost restaurant sales for the city of Harrison. So those are based on projections after we've started to see some income come in. So anyway, that's all I have, unless if anybody has any questions.
Matt, I put up there the district fair. Allison had mentioned that.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
yeah, so they're, as of right now, the Boone County Fair and the district fair are both on as scheduled. However, she did mention that the carnival probably wasn't going to be a go, but they did have spacing to allow for the Boone County and district fair. The difference, I think she had mentioned the district fair, they won't have space for commercial vendors. So like, if you've been to the district fair, you see like Arvest has a booth set up in the back building, all the businesses that just more or less do it to show support for the district fair. That's basically why they're there. But so those spaces won't be available in order to accommodate plenty of booth space for the fair showmen or women. I don't know what they're called, but anyway, those people that show things at the district fair.
okay, thanks, Matt. Any questions?
I'll mention on that, Allison did share with us the only estimate that she has gotten for repairing the fire damage up there at the fairgrounds is right at $300,000. That's the only estimate she's received thus far. She's still waiting on the insurance adjuster to come and do whatever they're doing. So.
And the other thing that she mentioned, just as a note of interest, is that they did confirm that it is arson, but have not located a culprit yet. So,
yeah, she said in the video you could see where the individual stayed there until the fire was good and burning. So they kept stoking it to make sure it was set really well, and then they decided to leave. So very unfortunate.
Right. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
Let's go to finance. Gwen, you're on.
Hello. The IRS released guidance on COVID-related retirement distributions. Under Section 2202, qualified individuals may take penalty-free distributions from their eligible retirement plans related to COVID. The next item is the ABA, the PPP loan correlated with May employment gains. The loans provided by banks through the Paycheck Protection Program appear to be contributing factor to the unexpected May employment gain. On down there, the industries that received more PPP funding, for example, construction and healthcare, tended to experience stronger job growth. And then the top 5 industries in terms of PPP dollars received were construction, professional services, manufacturing, healthcare, and accommodation and food services accounted for nearly 75% of the May job growth. PPP ends June 30th. There are still funds available, and there were no major changes in the amounts distributed. It's about the same as before, just a little bit more, not much. Our local bank lobbies, we have 6 that are open to the public. Most do require the use of masks and social distancing and report that most customers continue to use the drive-through majority of the time. 2 report their lobbies remain closed and are by appointment only. I'll just say that our Carroll County and Madison County lobbies with our bank have closed due to the spike in that area, and so they are back to appointment only. Having previously, I reported that the first quarter of 2020 had shown an increase in individuals saving money and able to take care of their bills and necessities on time. With that, then delinquent GSE mortgages fell in the first quarter, which is great. So those are homes backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that were 60 or more days past due. It fell from 0.96 to 0.92 in the first quarter. Those that were 90 days or more past fell to 0.64 in that. In comparison, regular Federal Housing Administration loans were 3.29 and 1.67% of all loans were seriously delinquent during that time. But some improvement at the first of the year. Initiated forbearance plans rose to 170,000 plus in the first quarter, which is significantly up from 2019, which had 6,975 in the fourth quarter. Total refinance volumes increased in March as mortgage rates continued to go down to the lowest that they have observed since 2015. There should be a slide there, kind of gives you an idea of mortgage performances. It ranges from 2008 to 2020, where we had our spike at one time and had just about leveled out to where prior to that spike many years ago. So again, the first quarter had started out pretty good and up until the COVID-related issues. New home sales rose in May. Sales of new homes soared 16.6% in May, and that is up 12.7% from a year prior. I will say, though, there's a little bit of anticipation for a little bit of the recess to last for a couple of quarters. That is just a national opinion that is taken amongst the bankers as a whole, and it did not specify which 2 quarters that they were speaking of. But everything else is just pretty much stabilizing and just anticipating, waiting to see what the next month brings after the PPP and all the stimulus money has worked through the system.
Yeah, that's going to be a big impact. And I think, supposition at this point is all good, but it's also just supposition. So good report. We can keep our fingers that mortgage rates continue to go down. That's all good.
We're still lending, so that's good.
That's good. Anyone have questions for Gwen or any of the other brilliant bankers on the phone call this afternoon? Okay. All right. Jim Blackwell, are you on the call? Or Mark Martin? I think Dottie, you are for sure. I understand there are no changes here on our infrastructure.
Yes, that's correct. Everything is still stands where it has been.
Okay. Thanks, Dottie. Appreciate that very much.
You bet.
Okay. Judge Hathaway, you and Danny Bolin are on the call.
Yes, Judge Hathaway just left. He had to go to another meeting. So if anybody has any questions for him, I can answer those.
Why don't you, now he signed an order that all of the Boone County offices are again closed and you've got to wear a mask, correct?
Correct. If members of the public, if they go to the courthouse or any county building, they got to wear masks inside the building. They have to get the temperature taken and all that stuff. That stayed the same. And that's where he's back to with that right now.
Okay. You have any update on the death that occurred that the healthcare team talked about earlier, Dean?
The coroner was here and he left too, so I'll answer that question for them. The COVID death was a patient over the age of 65 that was in a nursing home in Northwest Arkansas. He had been there for over a year.
Okay.
He contracted the COVID at that nursing home, and that's where he passed away at. But his home of record address was in Boone County, and that's why it registered back to Boone County.
So the actual it registered here when in fact it occurred in Northwest Arkansas with their spike there, correct?
Correct.
Good. All right. Okay. Any questions for Danny that he can respond to the judge for? Okay, Terry Crow. All right, I guess Mayor Crow is not on. Mayor Jackson, sir, you're on.
Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted, but no updates at this time. Sorry about that.
That's all right, Terry. Thank you very much. Okay, Jerry.
Okay, Bob, I'll try to go through this rather quickly because I've got several things I want to touch on. Earlier, you asked for masks. Somebody asked that question on our Facebook page, and they got replies of Hobby Lobby, Frenzy, Walmart, Flippin' Hippie, and the Rag Barn. And if you need that, I'll be glad to send it to you, Bob. But I'm sure there's more. We are also going to try to put together a list of everybody in town that sells masks and push it out on our Facebook page constantly.
Okay. Hey, Mayor, that's very good. Thank you for doing that. I know that we had gotten a note from Bill Knight that Walmart had some. Also, we have a business in town that has supplied both the city and county governments and our law enforcement and first responders. That's Becky McGowan at Logatology. You can get her information on our business directory, and she has been a good responder to all of the governmental needs. Thank you.
I would also like you to add Nature's Wonder. They have a local person that is supplying their store, and they are selling them in the store. So,
oh, good. Okay. All right. Thanks, Donnie.
Okay. I want to stay on COVID here for a minute. I think the death yesterday was a little shockwave through the community, and it's probably something we can take advantage of. We know that people have been slacking in most areas. So we had a meeting this morning, and we tried to brainstorm and see what we can do to do a better job to get the message out. We came up with two things. First, we had removed all the 6 signs from the highway because the highway department only allowed us 30 days on their right of way, which was very generous. However, we went ahead and removed them all. But now with the spike again, we're looking for places out on the highway that we can put them in the businesses on 65. And I've asked 3 people today and they all said yes. And that was, I think, 3 banks. But if you have a place out on 65 and you want a sign, Matt Bell also sent that message out to the restaurants yesterday to see if we could get some more signage out there. We also came up with an idea to do some video clips of the medical community, starting with Vince and Sammy, and they both agreed to participate. And then other doctors here in our local community that can go on for about 30 seconds and talk about the importance of wearing a face covering. And we first decided we were going to throw that out on our face. We have several Facebook pages. We're going to put it on all of them here daily. But now we also, I think we want to go a step further and kind of push that through Facebook real strong. So I'm going to get with Matt Bell. He's the Facebook expert. And we might want to push these short 30-second videos from the local medical community out there where people see them constantly. So I think that's really something good we can do. I'll move into, I have had more complaints, COVID complaints in the last week than I've had in the first 3 months. And, they come to me through Facebook Messenger or we get calls or however. But I have been forwarding them to the health department. I know the city has the authority to enforce. And what I'll do, I'll usually call the person and let them know there's been a complaint. And most of them has been toward restaurants and regarding restaurant servers not wearing masks. And I think in the beginning they were all wearing masks, but I think they've slacked off a little. So I'll be letting the restaurants know personally about these complaints, but we're not going to enforce anything. I'm going to send it to the health department. When a complaint comes in, most of them are just going to be, they want to tell me about it. But if they really want to pursue a complaint, and I think there was 2 that wanted to go that far, we send them to the health department. So that's COVID. We had some good news again yesterday. Sales tax. We were looking for 100,000 and it came in $100,200. So we were very pleased in April, and we're even looking for better numbers come May. So that's all good. I want to mention the public safety building over at the Townhouse Cafe this morning. I stopped in because we had some misinformation over there yesterday, and I talked to the round table, and those people are very important. But they have some questions. Why do you need this? Why do you need to spend $8 million? And I use kind of Chief Grady's analysis is probably the best. When you look at the police department, we have the same building that they were in. Chief Grady worked here in 1984. And it's the same building with about 3 times the force. We have 1 room downstairs, and it's a small room. We have 6 people working out of that room. We have the detectives working out of 2 offices and 3 closets. And when it comes to the building itself, you can't do anything with it, IT wise, because the whole thing's concrete. You can't do a lot with the wiring, and our reception's not that good. And the list goes on and on and on. But the other thing I wanted to mention about public safety, there is not going to be a tax on this. This is part of the tax that the citizens approved in 2014 for public safety, and 30% of that tax is supposed to be set back for buildings and equipment. And so we have been able to save through that tax right around $4 million. So that's going to be half of the project. We're going to borrow the other 4 at an incredible 2-point-something%. I mentioned last night that there couldn't be a better time to build or a better time to borrow. Building costs are level or down right now for materials, and they used to go up about 6 to 7% a year. So it's just a perfect time. So that's all of my report. I'd like Chief Grady, if you get him on there, I'd like him to tell you a little bit about the where we are with the protests. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, Chief, are you on? Do you want, I think he was, I saw a while ago.
Yes, I'm here.
Good.
To my knowledge, we have no scheduled protests. Those that we had on the 4th and 5th was the major ones. We've had a couple of pop-up ones since. They were non-eventful. No calls to service. No, we did have some extra hours on one, just the fact of the unknown. But I stay in constant contact with Sheriff Robertson and state police on any information that we get on that. So we have none on the horizon that we're aware of.
That's great news, Chris. And again, from the business community, we thank you and the other law enforcement agencies that reacted and were prepared for June 4th and 5th. And the fact that there was not a single incident of any disruption speaks highly of your preparation and your intelligence. So we thank you and all the rest of the first responders very much. We appreciate it.
Sheriff Robertson's here with me if anybody had any questions of him.
Tim, and that same thanks goes to you and all of the work that your two departments do for us locally right here. That's great.
We appreciate that.
Okay, it's past 4 o'clock. I apologize for running over. I think there's a lot of information that's been passed out today. One of the most important things is that this is not a time to give up and let go. Remember, it's not a public health issue. It's not a pro-business issue. It's both. We have got to continue the awareness that everybody has mentioned. I'm asking through this medium right here that everybody that's on this call and in businesses, in the community, and governmental organizations use social media. Please use social media and every other vehicle possible to get the message out that face coverings are important. We would prefer not to have to get into a situation as other communities around the state and the country have. So common sense makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much for your participation today. At this point, we will not have a meeting this next Wednesday, but we'll pick up the second week in July. So we look forward to more good reports at that time. Thanks for everything that you're doing to keep our community safe and secure. Have a great day.